October regular meeting of the Inlet and Beach Protection Board to order. So the first item on the agenda then would be agenda approval. And I think we have some items that you wanted to add to the agenda.
One of the items was a discussion on the Ocean Isle Terminal groin and our involvement with that. That was talked about at the commissioners meeting on Tuesday. Do we join forces with the Autobahn folks? Do we do some, I think you had a friend of the court sort of document? Does it make sense for Holden Beach to be doing that?
Okay, so like to send a recommendation to the BOC? Is what you're thinking?
Yes.
One way or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Then there was the ATM modeling, the new round of modeling that was approved. I wondered, should that be an item that we should touch on?
Would that be included under the status of Lockwood Folly Inlet dredging issues? David, did you plan to cover that?
Yes.
Okay, then there was the big topic, the lobbyists and the local lawyer. There was a discussion about a list of items that we put forth that we'd want them to work on, kind of thing, and evidently there's already a draft floating around. Thought that we should touch on that list of items in particular, but then there's also a discussion of how we're going to proceed with that.
I have a question.
Well,
I know you're adding a lot of things to the agenda that seem to actually be board commissioners' responsibility that we're handling, and I don't know exactly what you're thinking to recommend when we are doing something and making decisions at board meetings. So I'm just questioning what you want to come back and recommend when we're in the midst of making decisions.
Okay.
At the Board of Commissioners meeting. So
yeah, I was gonna say I see where you're going with it, but I think that on most of those situations that they're already engaged and they didn't give you a tasker for any of those, like went the planning and zoning, for example, with the parking. It came out of that meeting that something was supposed to go back to the planning and zoning board. You guys didn't get any additional taskers to come to you. So I think we're going to work backwards if we go back at this point.
Okay.
If they see that they need to have you add stuff, they could do it at the next meeting once they look at some contract numbers. But for example, with the information that was the draft for the things for the lobbyists, I think that David was supposed to provide the commissioners with some feedback, and they were supposed to look at the list of the contract, and then they were going to narrow things down. With the terminal groin, there's actually already language in that document that came from Ocean Isle when they were doing their scoping meetings that says if something were to happen adversely to our shoreline, that it's theirs, ours, and a third-party engineer that work together for mitigation. So there's some controls in there, and I'm not sure that this board needs to get into that without a tasker from the board. And what was the modeling? They approved the contract, and I don't know if there'd be anything for you guys to look at or recommend at this point, but again, they could send a tasker to you if things came back with the data that they wanted you to work with towards using that.
Okay, well, regarding the modeling, I think David is going to discuss that when he gives us an update, right? But regarding the terminal groin, that seems like that's in our purview to send a recommendation, right?
I just don't know that you guys were tasked with that. I mean, I'll just give you guidance on that, but I don't think the Board of Commissioners gave you that tasker.
Oh, we got 4 out of 5.
Yeah, they
I know. No.
Well, Joe, I guess we're taking public comments. Patty already jumped right in. Go ahead.
Y'all really got to be careful about how commissioners are engaging here with this board. Because we got 4 of you here in the audience, and this is it's gone far enough with how this is happening. It's just totally wrong to have commissioners participating
I
at this
apologize.
level.
I do apologize.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I've said it.
My only
It's
comment
wrong.
was there were three of us sitting here, and we shouldn't be discussing this unless we have an open meeting. Thank you.
So. Okay, back to agenda approval. So you suggested that we add 3 things to our agenda, and that was discussing the terminal groin, the lobbyist list of items, and the modeling of the inlet, which,
Those were 3 things that seem to be on the radar as far as inlet protection and
Right.
beach protection types of things that
we wanted
seems
to hear
like we
about.
should be interested in, but I'm not sure how to respond to, if we hadn't received a task from the commissioners, then maybe we don't put any cycles into it until
And-
we are told to do something.
And from the staff's perspective, just for future reference, we have an agenda set meeting with the chair and the vice chair to try to get prepared for those types of things. Just not those specific items, but we would do a lot better job if those agenda items, we were allowed to prepare for them.
Well, you've made a motion. Is there a second to add any of these agenda items to the, let's do those individually. Is there a second to add the Ocean Isle Terminal groin to the agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I think we need to discuss the terminal home, because that was one of the first things I saw in the beach monitoring report, was that's gonna have an issue on our beach. Just for information purposes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on adding that to our agenda? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, that will be added to our agenda. Let's make that, we can add that right down there by status of Lockwood Folly, maybe like 7A. Adding the lobbyist list of items to our agenda. Is there a second on that item? No second? Okay, that dies, and that will not be added to our agenda. Okay, then we are going to hear from David on the dredging contract. The dredging modeling, sorry. Correct? Yes. Okay. With those changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay.
I'm sorry, can you give me the first and second again for the agenda approval with the changes?
I made the motion and Dean seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Did you get that, Christie?
I did. I had Mike and Dean and all.
Okay.
Okay. So that carried unanimously. Christy, can we get a copy of that photo that we added last time? Can that be forwarded to us so we can all add it to our copy of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next one. Status of the beach and inlet, post Florence and Michael. And we'll go to David and Christy for that one.
So, Fran on Tuesday, just before the board meeting, supplied me with some information. They are still working on getting a little closer with post-Michael numbers. That wasn't as expedited as we had to do for Florence because the state was asking for Florence numbers pretty quick. But it looks like further evaluation that he's given for post-Florence, full shoreline was 275,707 cubic yards of loss in the engineered beach. So of that amount, 201,564. And then post-Michael initial reports that they're looking at, full shoreline, 136,087 cubic yards. And of that, in the engineered beach, 90,927 cubic yards. We did increase our amount of losses due to his increase in the projection that he had as a gross estimate for Florence into the state, which took it close to $8 million. And then
Took the amount, with the total amount of sand, took the
and mobilization and close
everything
to
up
8.
to an approximate 8 million.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's for both events?
No, just for Florence. We're
Florence.
keeping Michael separate in case there's a separate declaration because we'll need to do that for our FEMA paperwork. And then I know several members of the Board of Commissioners and this board were at the Brunswick Shoreline meeting yesterday, and you heard the Corps give an update on the inlet and show the survey. I had inquired of Brendan Dooley and Jim Medlock on 2 different occasions, once right before we met last time and then once again last week, because I figured they would have had their surveys conducted by then about any supplemental funding. They have requested supplemental funding in regards to inlets after Florence, but it would require an appropriations bill to be made, and so far that hasn't been done. But they did not see a lot of impact in regards to the Lockwood Folly Inlet, so they're not sure that any of that funding would make it to there because pre and post there wasn't much change as compared to other places.
Christie, the report that you gave us, the post-Matthew, the early report, now we'll be getting one of those from Florence and Michael? Okay.
That's what Fran's working on now. He should be completing Florence in the next week or 2.
Okay.
He was hopeful that it would be in the next few days, but I don't want to promise that. He's coming in November or scheduled to come in November to the Board of Commissioners meeting to give the annual monitoring report. And then Michael will take a little bit longer for them to work on.
Plus he's
But
got this new thing to do.
Right. I would say that it would be in the next month or so that we should get Michael. And of course, if we needed to reprioritize that based on the state needing numbers or something more quickly on that, we would have to do that.
And do you take that report and then submit it to the state or to the?
It goes in with our FEMA paperwork.
Okay.
They have to have it with their project worksheets because they type in about a paragraph from it, but they include it and keep it in their file.
Okay, so you have already filed our numbers with FEMA for Florence, right?
No. No, only a draft, only the draft estimates, that actual report that's forthcoming, that is the justification. That's the hard justification.
Okay.
Everything that we do up until that point is really preliminary coordination with them. But they are aware of it. We haven't gotten to the point where we're actually writing project worksheets yet.
Okay.
We just got the approval the other night to formally designate for those submittals, but we've been doing preliminaries.
Which
Okay.
is the stuff we talked about in the agenda setting meeting with the grants portal. So
Okay.
the grants portal is all digital, and our damages have been entered into there, and not just category G. The only thing that I think is not currently into there is our payroll, because that has to be broken out by category by day. So that's still being worked on.
Okay. But then still nothing yet on Michael because it hasn't been declared a disaster? Is that
Right, we're still following up on that. You have to do that. We inquired with Andy Ennis with the state, and it has to be done through the county level because it's based on a total amount of loss in the area or in the state. And right now, I'm not sure if we're gonna meet that. I mean, we had impacts, but I'm not sure the regional definition will make it. We're still following up. We spoke with Steve Stone yesterday while we were at the Brunswick Shoreline meeting after the meeting.
So if that doesn't happen, what is the impact to us? If we don't meet the criteria?
You've lost 90,000 cubic yards or 90,000 cubic yards of engineered beach, and it would be considered normal erosion.
Okay.
And we basically eat it.
And we won't be reimbursed for our survey cost or Fran's work,
Okay.
which we have had to take out of the operating budget already, so.
Right. A couple of us have had questions. Now, our beach is an engineered beach, so what does that bring us in terms of being an engineered beach versus a non-engineered beach like our neighbor? Can you explain that?
The ability to file for category G and get your reimbursements. That's one of the first things they ask for is your status of engineered beach when you come. So I think Oak Island has, if that's who you're talking about as your neighbor, Oak Island has had some success before their engineered beach status just because part of theirs was a federal project in the Turtle area. So that's already covered under another amount, but they are still working towards their engineered beach.
Right, so I just noticed though that they've gotten money in the past and they expect to get money now. even
Well,
though-
I wouldn't, that's questionable. I question that because, one of the things that we were able to do shortly after I first got here was to obtain reimbursements for federal, for damages to our portion of the beach that had been federally nourished, and there was actually a law passed that prohibits feds from reimbursing feds projects.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's something being lost in their advisor's consultation to them, or I'm missing the interpretation, but I try to stay pretty well versed on meeting the standards of qualification for those reimbursements, and the federal reimbursements through the Category G program, which are recreational facilities. That standard is that the reimbursements, and all of those public assistance reimbursements are for local expenses, not federal expenses.
You know what I'm
If
asking,
there's
right?
if there's a different mechanism, I'm not aware of.
Okay. You know what I'm asking, right?
Is Oak Island getting federal reimbursements for their turtle project?
Well, yeah, just for the beach in general. I mean, I see that in the paper, and I'm just wondering, it's like, wait, I know they're still trying to become an,
Engineered beach.
yeah, an engineered beach, and
I'm not aware of how they're doing that, if they are.
okay. Did anybody else have any questions on the status of the beach or inlets post Florence and Michael? Did you want to discuss anything about the hump on the west end?
About the what? The hump?
The hump. Oh, well, you know, I took my western part of the beach ride, Monday, and, we went in, I don't know, I guess down about the 800 block, and we're going west on the beach, and David brings up, he says, look at that hump, and there's a huge hump. Yes. Sand's come in there, yeah, piled up a huge hump down on the west end of the beach, and I guess it was probably
A mile
a
long?
mile long. Yeah, before, just eased on back off, but, it was just a big hump of sand. That's
Were
basically
you
what it
asking
was.
how it got there?
Well, I'm sure, it came in from one of the hurricanes. I guess Michael had to come in from Michael.
I know that I've shared my, right after the Michael storm, subjective opinion that we had lost 300,000 cubic yards. And therein,
There it is.
Well, but,
There's a bunch of them.
but that was before the hump showed back up, and is probably a good illustration as to why we measure below the mean low water mark in ascertaining what the beach is, what is in the system. And of course, when I looked at it, it's pretty much low tide. And I just did some quick mental math and said, I think it's about 300,000 cubic yards. Well, based on the hardcore survey data that we have, that actually takes it to -5 feet, below mean low water. Evidently, that's where that slug of sand was, and now it's moved back up on the beach with, some more southerly winds that have blown. So
Or we just move it on back?
I'd rather see it up on the beach, than
The
It'd
other
be
thing,
gone.
the other thing that we noticed is the big piles of seaweed or whatever it is that washed up on the beach, was how quickly they were being covered up with sand.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
On the west end?
yeah, on the west end,
Mhm.
yeah, we went, like I say, from about 800 west.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, moving on to item 5, discussion of town's planned responses to storm-related events. This is one that came up in our agenda meeting with David and Christie, and it was brought about by, you guys had some discussions.
Yeah, Dean and I had some
wanted to-
discussions.
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we were just, we don't know, and a lot of this stuff is we're learning as we go, and we're trying to get information, as much information as we can, and we brought up the event, the question. I remember back during the meeting with the town commissioners, and it was brought up that we had a storm that came through and leveled the dunes, and nobody knew what was going on. I mean, or what to do. Alan had brought it up, and so we said, we'd just like some information on what the emergency plan is. If something like that would happen again, and or if we had massive flooding, what's out there as far as the plan of the town, as to what steps we take. Is there an A category, B category, C category as to what happened and who's responsible for it? Is that pretty well it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah,
But again, I'm going back to our earlier conversation. We haven't been given that task to work on
Well, that's
that or
true.
to even ask questions about it, kind of thing. So now I'm hesitant to, unless the commissioners came and said, we'd like to see something put together.
Well, I just think that like I say, the further we go along, the more information that we learn, the better off we are. And just like the report from Michael, from Matthew, that was a very informative report. And I think that's one of the things that we were talking about, is just how we looking for information, trying to learn stuff.
How about if I suggest that, we've got a published emergency response plan? How about if we just provide that to you guys and let you review it?
Sure.
And then we can dialogue at the staff level if you have any follow-up questions. And then
That'd be
if that, you know, if you think that right, there's things in it specifically that rise to the level of you know, needing to work on, you know, the strategic level, we can bring it back.
Okay.
And then, Dean, in the agenda setting meeting, when we were speaking, when Mike brought up the report and they got a copy of Matthew, we were also mentioning that one of the taskers that you guys do have is working on the like a long-term plan, and that it may be that those reports are included as part of that plan so that people can view them over time, what events occurred. And that would be up to you guys on whether you want to include that as a topic or not.
Okay. Mission statements. This is something that we brought up many months ago, actually. And you guys wanted to work on it, so I'm just turning it over to you guys.
Okay, well, Dean and I worked on a mission statement. We took the minutes from the meeting with the town commissioners, and then we took the ordinance. We tried to come together with a hybrid statement that's you know, it's not a policy statement. It's just if you click on the inlet board on the town website, it tells who we are and what we do. And you know, we tried to take the feedback from the commissioners and just to have just a generic, broad statement. And let me read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, just the Holden Beach Inlet and Beach Protection Board is an advisory board set up by the Holden Beach Town Commissioners to provide recommendations to the board on beach strand and inlet management issues. These recommendations will be based on the inlet board research and analysis from collecting data and information for all phases of maintaining a healthy, environmentally sound beach and inlet. The board will strive to provide recommendations for long and short-range plans and projects to include beach renourishment, inlet maintenance, vegetation plan with estimation of costs relating to these projects. The board will work with the town management and their engineer to obtain input for the projects. The board will strive to keep the town informed of any new federal, state, or local funding sources and laws. The board will be an active participant in attendance at coastal and inlet management related meetings and seminars. Just, like I say, it's pretty broad. Just says what we are, who we are.
Does anybody have any comments?
I think the only comment I have is the second to last line where it says that the board will strive to keep the town board informed of any new federal, state, or local funding sources and laws. My suspicion is that David and Christie, you know, do a lot. So, you know, the possibility that we would discover something in addition to what they discover. I mean, I don't have a problem with it being in there. It just, you know, there's of course overlap here between us
and that's one of the things that commissioners, you know, brought up is that they didn't want to have, you know, two people doing the same thing.
Right,
So,
exactly.
you know, we need to take that out. That's
No, I'm not saying we need to take it out. I'm just saying that the likelihood of this board finding new federal, state, or local funding sources that our town management hasn't found, you know, that's probably not very likely, although it, you know, stranger things have happened, I guess. We might find some wealthy individual who wins the lottery and wants to loan us some money, you know. Anyway, that's the only thing. I think everything else is.
So now I wonder, based again on the earlier conversation, do we need to make some sort of statement that this work is based on tasks specifically received from the
That's
DOC?
right. If we don't get if we don't get a specific task from the Board of Commissioners, a lot of what we discuss is just discussion. And, you know, I feel like,
Well, you're given a job to do in the original ordinance.
right,
You know, and that's kind of what,
where this comes from, yes, got it, okay.
in that joint meeting, that first joint meeting, I think you guys went back and,
We did, we went back and, you know, I've been through those meetings, many times. You know, you had several of the commissioners that brought up the statement, you know, that you need a statement, you know, as to what what you're gonna
Right.
try to do.
I think the
Okay.
statement is, I
And,
think this mission statement is great, and I think it covers everything. But like, just like came up at the beginning of the meeting, and I may be talking out of order here, but anyway, but just like came up at the beginning of the meeting when you talked about the terminal growing, and you talked about the monitoring report, and you talked about wherever the third thing was. Like, I would have added to that the discussion about the deer dredge on Tuesday night too. I would have added that. Those things sound to me, when I hear those discussed in the Board of Commissioners meetings, those sound to me like Shoreline and Inlet Protection Board. Those sound like they fall into our
Or at least it's something they have to worry about, but can we help them?
right. Can
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the whole
As
thing.
well as
I
help
mean, like
Dave
the
and
Pointers
Christie
Rule
and the
thing.
town staff.
I get that. We all listen to that, and it does affect us, but that is really a board. I mean, they've got to work on costs and lists, and I would hope that when the list of priorities is finalized, that we would be, when the Board of Commissioners and the town management finalize the list of priorities, that we'd be privy to a copy of that. But I understand that that's a work in progress, and that's at a different level. We're not negotiating with Pointers Rule or Clark Wright or anything like that. They are. So that I get. But researching, you know, things that directly affect the beach and the inlets, I thought fell under our umbrella. But the question is, do they, or do they have to be specifically tasked by the Board of Commissioners to us? Or do we, you know, just stay out of it? It's just a question. I'm not sure.
Well, I think that your guidance comes from the ordinance, and that, you know, those things are spelled out formally in you know, assessing the flavor of what this is intended to do. It's really an advertisement to show the public that there is an entity engaged, you know, and it was my understanding it's kind of envisioned as a website presence so that people could see that something, you know, there is a
Group.
desire or to have a group that looks at these types of things. That was, I don't think it really goes beyond that, to be quite frank with you. Your comment about the keeping the board up to date on laws, I don't have a problem with that being in there. You know, I think it's okay. You know, this group, I would imagine, is going to be looking at a lot of different things. I mean, Dean, I've gotten a ping back from you on the NOAA website that made me look at something, and you know, if knowledge or current events is uncovered as part of this group's engagement, I totally think that's, you know, within the sphere of give and take to get that to the Board of Commissioners. I think.
I would like, when we leave today, not before the adjournment, but to get a picture of the group, because if it's gonna go on the website, the picture, when we went to send out the quorum notice for this board the other day, is an old picture of when the board was combined with Parks and Rec, and I think we need a current picture for the website. So if this is going to be added, which is what I think we talked about in the agenda setting meeting, I think it would be appropriate to have the right pictures in at the top of the page.
I agree.
and I'd just like to say I appreciate the work that you guys put into this, because I think that between the ordinance and that joint meeting, it was difficult to, some of the stuff was vague and it was conflicting. and I appreciate how you guys went in there and you kind of teased out the information and put it together in a coherent
I agree.
thing. And I'd also just like to say that we're also doing a land use plan and planning and zoning, and the input from property owners and citizens, the beach strand and the beach in general, that's the top interest of our citizens. The protection and the enhancement and maintaining our beach, that's everyone's top interest in out of this survey that we have done so far. And they're very interested and they value it. So I just wanted to say, I think it's important to them, so I think it's good to have that out there. And it's good for the town to recognize it.
Mhm.
So regarding the mission statement, though, I had a couple of mainly, I guess you'd say kind of clerical type things. Like I changed board in the first line to a capital B. Like I think I added a comma there. I made in the fourth line the IBPB I made that a possessive. I made it possessive.
What'd you do?
Made it possessive.
Okay,
Yeah, some of mine moved because I
okay, got it.
Did you say you added a comma? I'm sorry.
Apostrophe possessive.
Apostrophe. should
Yeah,
be-
no, before that, after the B. Did you say, yeah, did I hear a comma?
First line became capitalized. That board became
Mhm.
capitalized. I can give you this. Yeah, I did track changes. I can just send you this. I made it read for all phases of maintaining healthy and environmentally sound beaches and inlets.
Beach what?
Beaches,
Beaches.
made that plural, just because it sounded better.
Okay.
Instead of a healthy and environmentally sound beach and inlets. My grammar checker said short range should be hyphenated. On the line that the IBPB will work with the town's management, consultants, and engineers to obtain input for the project. What do you think about that?
They're consultant and engineer?
The town's management, consultants, and engineers. I don't know who all they're gonna have.
Well, if you just said and consultants,
Yeah,
because the engineer is a consulting engineer.
Yep.
I mean, that's a broad.
yep, that's good. And then I think you guys just already mentioned this, that the IBPB will strive to keep the town commissioners informed. I just, instead of the board, I think you had board, and I just said town commissioners.
I know it's a fine point, but I think that if you focus that this board communicates to the board of commissioners, that when you start peeling out commissioners, then, well, I told Joe about it. Well, that's not necessarily the board.
Yeah. I was trying to get rid of board, because there's some board, this board, that board, and it was confusing. That's where I came up, added in commissioner.
That's a good idea.
Well, I mean, if you just wanted to say the whole Beach Board of Commissioners, there's,
Yeah, that's good. You know what I'm saying? When you're reading this, you're going, came up with these because I ran it through my little cheater thing.
I'm in English class.
What?
I'm back in English class.
Okay, I'm being really nitpicky here. I still can't wrap my mind around you making beaches and inlets plural. Read that sentence back. It should be beach and inlets, I think. I think it
Okay,
should
I
be
can
as
go
a...
with, I can do either one, I'm good with
Okay,
that.
No, I'm not gonna, sometimes people refer to things that I look up, like they'll say Robinson Beach. And,
Oh.
different
There are
segments.
different sections of them.
So
Yeah.
I understand
Okay,
either.
I don't care either way. I just keep reading it and I'm like, no, it's not beaches. There's one beach out there on this island.
If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna have one beach, it needs to be A, healthy.
Maintaining a healthy and environmentally sound beach and inlets. I get it. I see what you're saying. Let's just leave it plural. It's fine. Moving on.
But did we take the A out? Cause I still had the A. Is the A gone now? Does it say maintaining healthy?
Maintaining healthy and environmentally sound beaches and then I think we should take A out if we're going to keep it plural.
Whatever you guys want.
Okay, so for the minutes, I'm just going to read this back. The original things that I had as Vicky was going along is on line 4, the IBPB should be made possessive. Line 1, the B should be made capital.
Correct.
Line 6, beaches was ES, and right now you guys are deciding on that. But I had not had take A out, so we need to decide there. Line 7, short range should be hyphenated. Line 8, towns, management, and consultants. Line 9, Holden Beach, well, I think it goes 9 into 10. Holden Beach Board of Commissioners. The IBPB will strive to keep the Holden Beach Board of Commissioners informed.
And that'd be back on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it'd be line 9, we'll work with the town's management, the towns would be possessive.
Yes.
Okay, let's just take a vote real quick. We want to have singular beaches or plural beaches? All those in favor of single beaches, say aye. All those in favor of plural beaches, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to have plural beaches.
And then remove A.
Yes. Okay, let's adopt this. Can I have a motion to adopt the mission statement?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Do we have the authority?
To adopt the mission statement? I don't know.
I would question if we have the authority. We have the authority to come up with a draft, but it needs to be submitted to our approving authority to become our official mission statement.
Okay, how about we get a second and we discuss it? So
I
is there-
second adopting the mission statement.
Okay. We'll take that as,
Now my comments.
okay.
Do we have that authority to do that, or do we have the authority to, we certainly have the authority to come up with a draft. But does that draft need to then go to our higher authority for approval as our official mission statement?
So are you making a motion to submit it for approval?
Well, I'm just discussing right now. Yeah, we have a motion on the floor, so I'm just making a discussion about what should be done with that.
It's a good point. I don't know the technical answer, but I would think that we had the ability to establish our own mission statement, but I don't know.
If I may comment, the enabling legislation in the 160 series provides that the Board of Commissioners organizes town government. And it may be wise to forward it to them to get their stamp of approval on it, instead of doing something unilaterally. With that said, there's probably, y'all got guidance to work on things that there wouldn't be any harm in taking this to the next Board of Commissioners meeting for their consideration. And then you've got an answer, right? You know, if it's up or down. If it's okay, then I don't think that you've lost anything in terms of time. You know, if it's not okay, then you haven't done anything wrong, you know, but ask for permission. So.
Okay, is there any more discussion? With that being said, then Dean, do you want to modify your motion to send it to the commissioners, or do you want to just keep it as it is?
I would like to modify my motion and send it to the commissioners for approval.
Okay. Is that
I
okay?
think it could probably be done via email versus taking it to the town meeting or board meeting.
Well, we
Yes,
want
a
to
digital
avoid
meeting.
digital meetings whenever possible,
Uh,
because that gets into open meetings and transparency stuff.
Which means we're another month before we can get our mission statement adopted.
So is that okay with who made the second? I think it was you. Who seconded it?
I did, but I just think we should adopt it. I really do. I think we should just adopt it. I think it's under the guidance of the task that was given to us. It's under the guidance of the ordinance, and I mean, otherwise we'll never be able to do anything.
Okay, so then the motion fails for lack of a second. So, we come back to ground zero. What would you guys like to do with the mission statement?
Well, I wrote it, so I'm a little prejudiced. Dean and I wrote it.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt it as it with the modifications that we just discussed, that Krista's written down, and just go ahead and adopt it. I'd like to make a motion to do that, unless I'm out of order.
Nope, you can make that motion. Is there a second? Okay, so that died. Okay. You're not gonna second that?
Oh.
No one's gonna, okay, we're
Yeah,
we're fixing to move away from the
I'll
whole
second it,
mission
I'll second
statement.
it, I'll second it.
Okay,
Somewhere else,
well, I'm just saying, we're leaving the mission statement now.
yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen in the mission statement if we don't move on here. I mean, we're gonna,
Yeah, well, I think we need to adopt it.
Okay, so I made a motion to adopt, Mike
I'll second
seconded it.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, so then we should vote.
we need to ask for any discussion on it. Is there any more discussion? No? Okay, then let me call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, then, are you abstaining?
abstaining.
Okay,
Just as a matter of form, a non-vote is affirmation on a motion on the floor.
okay, so
It's
then,
properly seconded motion on the floor,
then the motion carried.
unless there is a conflict of interest, and this is.
There's not.
There's not.
So, motion carried. And the mission statement is adopted. Okay. Moving on. Status of the Lockwood Folly dredging issues. This is going to David, and David, you're going to also make sure that you share with us the update on the modeling information for Tuesday night. Included
Well,
in this update.
let me address the Lockwood Folly modeling
Okay,
first. The commissioners approved the contract with Applied Technology for like $47,000. That contract is basically to, attempt to quantify. I think the big takeaway from it is the longevity for the east end of Holden Beach and the longevity of the beach field on the west end of Oak Island, whenever sand would be put on either side. I mean, that's the big takeaway. There are some other things in there. They approved it, we've processed that contract. It's gonna take about 2 months according to Fran, so, that's kind of a high priority thing. Knoll is, I mean, is that sufficient? You know,
Okay,
they approved the contract.
Specifically in regard to the wider and deeper, right? The wider and deeper
This-
project?
This is, looking at the processes within the inlet, so it's beyond, you know, any placement issues out there.
Mhm.
Did that tell you what you were?
I mean, he hasn't, he knows that the commissioners approved it, he hasn't started to work on it yet because he hasn't got a signed document, is basically what it was. I just inked it this morning, that's pretty much it. Noel is working on the easement acquisition for the east end, in addition to, gathering some engineering data from Fran Way that is going to attempt to negate or be able to communicate, we don't think that there need to be any easements out there. So, that engineered data is going back and forth between the attorney and the consultant engineer on various inquiries and needs that she has for that. And basically, you know, it's a pretty complex chart that's been developed on historical data over, since 1998. You know, where the mean high water mark's been and all the different beach placements over the last 20 years and how that integrates with the state's raised lands, public doctrine kind of thing. But she mentioned to me the other night, I mean, the question boils down to, well, how's she doing on easements? And she mentioned to me the other night she'd acquired 8 more of how many, I forget, but we've got 8 more, and she's actively engaged in that.
Now, I have a question. So then has anyone reached back out to the Corps and said, we've resolved this issue, we have most, or we will have the...
We're not there yet to be able to say that, with being able to make our argument.
Okay, but then didn't we hear yesterday that by Tuesday it's all a moot point anyway?
By this Tuesday?
Well, that contract, you gotta understand, it was a moot point when those contract documents were put out to bid, because that's what the bids were predicated on. Their ability to make change orders at this point in time. I mean, it's Corps doesn't do very many change orders, especially in this particular circumstance, with it being a multiple location contract. They're ratcheted down pretty tightly with the in-house estimate because of federal contracting laws on them to make any changes on top of what their in-house estimate is, and that will actually, those contracting limitations,
Yeah.
federal contracting limitations, my opinion, is actually going to impact the ability for what I will refer to loosely as the the Bend Widener possibilities, just because not only are there type environmental windows for the other specific windows for the other couple of locations, the Marine Corps base specifically,
Right.
but the amount of sand available outside of the current statement of work is going, my opinion, is such an amount that it's going to be above the threshold that they would have any leeway in doing it. And not having any insight as to what the bids are, but, some of that's conjecture on my part too. But I think they're gonna have to come around for the second go round next year to address the bin widener. But we'll just have to see how that works. Now, to your point about the bigger, deeper, wider channel, the things that we know is that, the county submitted a grant
Right.
to the Division of Water Resources. The permitting agency knows nothing about it. So there is not a permit in hand to do that work. The only permit for a locally sponsored project in the Lockwood Folly Inlet belongs to Holden Beach. So I just leave that on the table. Those permitting issues to go deeper, wider, some of the specifics that we address in our resolution
Yes.
have requirements with them that are, I've complained before about the permitting process being fairly onerous, and I think that's gonna, unless somebody's got a silver bullet somewhere that I don't know about, I think it's going to be fairly time consuming to do that. Now, will, that grant be approved? I think that the sundown on those grants are 2 years, and will they work on a permit to do that kind of thing over the course of 2 years? My opinion is that the circumstance that we find ourselves in is one where it is not a circumstance, well, all you got to do is just go out there and dig it deeper and wider. Why can't we just do that? Well, you can't. There are 27 federal agencies that the Corps of Engineers has to, coordinate with. There is a huge machine, that bureaucratic machine that goes along with developing that permit. And is it going to be a separate permit? Is it going to be in addition to the existing shallow draft inlet 5 permit?
Well, that's what they want, right? That's what they're
Yeah.
asking to be added to.
But that SDI 5 permit, there's not only are there 27 federal agencies, but the mechanism on the specifics, there's like 27 pages of specific requirements involving the type of dredge that has to be used out there. So, it's a fairly robust and complex permitting endeavor. We've worked on it for over a year, and I just don't see it being a silver bullet kind of happening overnight.
Good.
Anyway, the commissioners established that, adopted that resolution that this board worked on, and one of the takeaways that was actually put in that adopted resolution was a specific articulation of the town's position that we want to see some modeling done as to what might occur there. So that resolution, I mean, it's gone out
Right.
to the
Where,
world.
where's it gone, has it gone?
To the
That was
world.
my-
Yeah, it's gone out to the
Yeah,
world. It's
everybody
on our
should have gotten
website.
that,
right?
Yeah, if you don't have one, we'll.
No, I got it.
You got it. And you got the distribution list, it's on the Excel file?
I did, yeah, no, I got it, oh, that's right, Christie sent out, I got it, never mind, I have it.
So it's out there.
Okay.
Any questions on those?
The
issues?
mouth,
Oh,
the regular,
the
the
last
regular,
thing- The last,
go ahead.
the mayor, I believe, is gonna be here in a couple of weeks,
End of November.
in November. Okay.
Okay. That was my question,
And we
when's it
don't
coming?
know, we don't know exactly how long it's gonna stay, when it gets here at the end of November. But again, the feedback on the condition survey, you know, the inlet didn't choke up as a result of the hurricanes, and so it's going to be here just a side cast, you
Mhm.
know, spray the inlet open kind of thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so were there any more questions then on the Lock of Folly Inlet and the dredging issues? Okay, so moving on then, 7A, Ocean Isle issue. When this came up on Tuesday night, I was not there. My understanding is that Clark Wright presented and gave options on becoming a party to the suit or becoming a friend of the court because we have an interest in the groin and its possible impact on our beach. So this was your agenda item. Let me just.
Right. I think you covered it. So is there anything
Okay.
this board needs to do? Is there any, again, we haven't been given a task from the commissioners, so.
We haven't.
it is a-
Should we give an opinion to the commissioners, if, you know, I mean, even though we haven't been tasked with it, and Clark gave his couple of options, and I guess what I heard Clark say when I was sitting in the meeting Tuesday night was that time was of the essence if the Board of Commissioners is going to do something. That's what I heard him say. So I don't know, you know, if they need for this board to give an opinion or to, you know, do any research or anything. So I don't know the answer to that. But I know that it's a timing issue.
Okay.
I don't think anyone, well, I don't know, never mind, I won't say that.
Thoughts from the town management or?
What I would add to it is, the commissioners, that issue is before the commissioners, and I mean, they heard, the report from Mr. Wright, and there weren't any taskers that came to the Beach and Inlet Board, so I'm of the opinion that the ball is in their court as.
Well, I will say, it concerns me because I do think we have issues down there on the west end, and I think Alan's comments yesterday, you know, at the meeting, that we do have things happening down there. You know,
Sounds like we got a big old berm down there.
well, no, I mean, he commented on, we have other erosional and issues going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the island changes, and it's inland hazard area, right?
Yes.
So, and I think it's also one of those areas of the island that we always assume that it's accreting, and we don't pay a lot of attention to it. We tend to focus on the east end a lot more, just because I think it's been such a hot spot for so long.
It has
That
been,
we
but I
tend to-
certainly, I've lived on Holman Beach and been here for many years, and I certainly remember when the West End was an issue. When Holden Beach West didn't even exist.
Yeah.
Those houses down there didn't even exist. And there was no sand to build them on. So, you know, I remember that very well. So I know what can happen down there,
Right.
for sure.
My concern is that I know that from what I've read, that with an inlet hazard area, you can get erosion and you can get it really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know that we have agreements with Ocean Isle what they're going, but I'd hate to see us start having trouble down there because it could happen faster than we could get relief from Ocean Isle. Is that not correct, David?
I don't know. That's a hypothetical that's beyond my capability to
Well, I know,
project
but
on.
I've heard you say that it's like we will never get relief from them no matter what anyway, so, I wouldn't hold you to that, but I think you and I both know that we're never gonna get any relief from them, with that groin, so, even if it washed away our west end, but
Can-
we'll have to hope that it doesn't.
Can I paint two scenarios before y'all decide what you're going to do with this?
Mhm.
I'm going to try to protect everybody here, the people in the audience and you. So right now, if you decide to move forward with sending an opinion to the board, even though you were not tasked with it and you put it on the agenda, and you decide that you feel okay with that, and everything goes normal, and there's just a Board of Commissioners meeting in November at the scheduled time, it's okay. But if something were to happen in this process to expedite a special meeting, and there's now a quorum of the Board of Commissioners in the audience, even though they're not actively participating, they will have the ability to obtain information of what this board's opinion was prior to their special meeting that was called, and the public would not have that information. So I'm just trying to protect everybody, and I'll let you guys move forward with however you want to do that. But it could paint a picture of questions.
So,
On an issue that was added to the agenda.
right, so could this board just leave it as a question that we would like to ask the Board of Commissioners if they would like our involvement in this? Can we do that? Just that, and if they don't have a special meeting between now and the next regular Board of Commissioners meeting, the question would come up at the next Board of Commissioners meeting. Can we just leave it open-ended and ask that question if they would like us involved in this process? Would that be okay?
Whatever your pleasure.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we ask the Board of Commissioners if they would like our assistance with the Ocean Isle Terminal groin and the impacts to the west end and the Shalot Inlet.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carried unanimously. Okay. Moving on to Inlet and Beach Protection Board announcements. I just had a couple of things I wanted to point out. The annual beach report is expected next month. Traditionally, it comes out in October, but it's been postponed by a month. So we asked for a hard copy for everybody. Some people like the hard paper copy to work with, so expect one. Can we have him come and speak with us? Because I'm imagining we're going to have a lot of interest in that report.
That report would be rendered to the commissioners, because they're expecting that, but if.
Did they meet before us or after us next month? I can't remember.
They meet 2 days before Thanksgiving, November 20th, I think.
1, 2, 3,
Okay,
4.
we're after.
Yeah, we're out.
We're the 29th.
We're the 29th.
Yes. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there.
But if you- but-
And they're
But
the
if you-
20th. Board of Commissioners meeting's the 20th.
But, if you guys want to do a deeper dive follow-on, have an interactive, I won't even want to say an educational type interface with the consultant engineer, I don't see that there's any harm in that, you know, if that's what you want to do. You know, it'll be briefed to the commissioners, and they'll have a host of other issues on their agenda.
Right.
And if you guys are anticipating wanting to do a deeper dive on it, we can get it back up here
Well, I just know his
to do that.
presentation with the commissioners every time it's pretty brief. I mean, it's a very high
Well,
level,
and
very,
it
it needs to
has to be, yeah.
right. Are you guys interested in that? I mean, you can read his report. I just figured every year when I get it and I read it, I always have, you know, a million questions, but that's, you know, I recognize that's probably just me.
So the question is, so the report will come out next month, which is November.
Right?
But we don't know that it'll come out, you know, like November 26th or something. I mean,
Well, it'll be in time for the commissioners meeting, correct?
okay, in time for the commissioners meeting. Okay.
I would actually anticipate that since there is a longer term plan, that it's an expectation back from you that dialoguing on that report would be a very good baseline to assist in developing a larger scale program or plan. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, that's my opinion.
So what are we asking, that we want Fran to attend our meeting on the 29th?
Right.
Okay.
If anybody else is interested, you know, I don't want to drive this whole stuff, but anybody else interested?
Yeah.
Okay. I also wanted to point out that some people are doing information gathering.
Information traveling?
Gathering.
Okay.
Dean, I think I heard that you're doing a storm summary.
I'm starting on that, right?
You're doing a what? I didn't hear.
You know, looking over past history of storms that have hit North Carolina, you know, over the past. So I'm trying to pull that together in a spreadsheet. It would be nice to, if we get to the point we all agree with the storms that have hit Holden Beach, to then turn probably back to the town management team to build out the details of what were the
storms? And
what were the real impacts to Holden Beach.
Okay.
Because I only have a 2 or 3 year
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
But if you try to look back over 20 years, what were the major ones and what were the impacts to Holden Beach, and try to put some costs around those as well, so that we'd have a historical record that the commissioners could use and we could use when we start talking about long-term plans.
And that is really valuable because, you know, for example, I remember Floyd, and I remember seeing the washers and the hot water heaters and all that from the 3rd row in the front yards of the 4th row, you know, from the washovers, and that was a 2. So if I ever get my house unpacked, I've got those photos, you know, those files.
So those are the kind of details that are good to hear, but then it's, take it the next step to the nuts and bolts. Well, we lost X million cubic yards of sand.
Exactly.
It cost us this much for that. We had overtime expenses. We had this expense, that expense, those sorts of things. And then try to categorize them to severity level.
Exactly. He's taken on storms. I've been taking on dredging, actually, for a while, of what we've done on the east end. And that's gone back for quite some time. I've been working on that. I'm also have been working on a rolling project plan, which is sort of, could I guess, morph into our long-term plan, but our kind of started out with our projects that we had discussed, those 3 projects, and kind of morphed that forward.
The 3 dredging projects.
Yes, kind of morphed that back, and I needed it to be able to move, and I needed pictures, so it's kind of gotten really big. But anyway, I am working on that, so there's other things going on, but I just wanted to throw that out there so other people are aware. And if there's some task that you guys are interested in, there's so much that can be done. Please speak up. Let's do this. Next on my little list of announcements, NC Beach Inlet and Waterway Association meeting November 13th through 16th. Christie, did you have some information on that? Did you want to?
I put the agenda in your packets. It's the 13th and 14th at the Marriott Hotel in Carolina Beach. If you look on day 2, the 14th at 10:15, I was mentioning in the beach ride with Mike, and I'll share this because it's important for anybody going. Byways is a little notorious for not sticking to schedule. They don't always start on time, and sessions don't always start and end when they say they will. But whenever the morning break occurs on the 14th, the town is hosting. So if you're only able to go one day, you may want to choose that day.
On the second day.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Now, as far as registration for that, I went to the website yesterday to see, to register for it, and it wouldn't let me register. Is that something we need to register through the town, or do we need to pre-register for it?
It will take pre-registration. I may need to look to see if you guys give an indication on who's interested in going. I'll look and see. It may be that you have to be a member, so we may have to work on that. I can
Yeah, I
contact
saw
the
something
director.
about member. I saw the town was a member.
Yeah, so that might be what the holdup is. So, Mike, you're interested. I think, Vicki, you said you were interested.
Yeah, let me email you.
Whether you are or not, or
Yeah.
okay.
Same here, I may be interested.
And I'm interested too. I don't know if I can go both days, but maybe the second day. Sounds like it might be.
Okay. Can you guys confirm by? Well, I'll reach out to her about if it requires membership or if our membership covers it. But can you confirm by the first if you're what days you're planning to go, if possible, so that I know? Because normally there's like a daily rate and a 2-day rate, and we just want to make sure we're not signing up for something that we're not following through on.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next one was the Atlantic Intercoast Waterway Association.
Vicki, can I make a comment? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Just looking at the agenda real quick if I could highlight a couple of those sections that are probably, they're all important, but the ones that catch my attention right off the bat, of course, is the regulatory and policy update with the core, Bob Kiesler, Pam Castens. Those are the people that work our projects. So
Right.
whatever they go over is probably
That's
of
8:45.
interest to us here locally. Heather Coates with Division of Coastal Management. She's recently lateraled over, but she's the Beach and Inlet Management Projects Coordinator. She doesn't have a big presentation, but we probably need to see there. And of course, Coley Cordero she's the lady with the money that is in charge of the Shallow Draft Inlet Navigation Weed Management Fund.
Okay.
I think that the policy updates, we're pretty familiar with the mechanism on how that fund receives its money, but the policy updates I think is going to be important because heretofore there hasn't been much of a formal set of criteria
Yeah.
established. It's pretty much you call her up and say, "Hey, Cully, I need some money."
Okay.
But she has worked on establishing a cadre of people that are attempting to set up some criteria as it appears there's going to be more demand for local sponsored sharing of that fund. So that's one that, and of course, she rolls over after lunch too, so that's probably one we want to do. And then, the guy from the Netherlands is probably going to be speaking about how, the Netherlands is I believe they live by dredge, but specific to our circumstance is a project that they have executed there near The Hague. It's called the Sand Engine, and I'm interested to see if that gets alluded to in that presentation, because it's very similar to our circumstance. It will put sand on the east end and it feeding down the beach. So, and then finally, the finding sand on the second page at 245. That is actually one of Fran Way's principles in applied technology that's going to be talking about finding sand. Now their presentation is probably going to be more global in nature, but it's got applicability here to what we have. And then, and finally, of course, the very last one, is coastal funding in the new Congress. With the Water Resources Development Act coming out recently, that's important for us. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the next meeting was the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway Association.
Yeah, the proposed agenda that they have right now, I also included in your packet, is November 15th and 16th in Charleston.
Is that another one we'll have to register to go through the town?
It probably is so. If anybody wants to tell me who's interested, I can look at that one as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, trying to find a reasonable price motel. My wife loves it, so if I can just keep the credit card in the pocket, I'll be all right.
Just curious, will both you two be going, David and Christie?
That's 13, 14, 15, 16, and
That's 4
we may
days.
have to divide
Tag team?
and conquer.
Divide and conquer, yeah.
Yeah, divide and conquer among this group too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then our next meeting is scheduled for November the 29th. That's the week after Thanksgiving.
LUP.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is we have to vote on our consensus of a short report to the Board of Commissioners, our memo that we have to send each month. So again, I've come with a draft so that we can vote on it. So let me read to you what I've got. I think we need to add a couple of things to it.
Is there a copy in here?
No,
No.
I just drafted up.
Okay.
The Inland and Beach Protection Board, IBPB, met September 25th, and the following issues were addressed. And I just draft this up just because I think it's easier for us to approve something if I've already got a draft and can edit it.
October 25th.
Today on the 25th?
You said September.
Did I?
Yeah, I'm just making it for the minutes.
You're right.
Should it be issues and topics? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily issues per se. Status of the beach.
And then let's post Florence and Michael. Staff provided an overview of conditions and issues relative to the beach strand and inlets in the aftermath of Hurricanes Florence and Michael. Overall, the beach and inlets fared well. The Central Reach project again fulfilled its job as a shoreline protection project during Hurricane Michael. The preliminary post-storm beach survey has been completed and the results have been sent to ATM for analysis. The town has submitted estimated losses to FEMA for Florence and losses for Michael are pending. The beach strand continues to recover daily. I had
Let's
to
see,
guess
let's-
all this, so
No,
please
you're
correct
fine.
it.
I'm just, let's see, our Central Reach losses that we've estimated were 200,
For Central Reach,
Yeah,
for
just-
Florence,
just Florence.
201564.
Okay, so 200,000 over 1.2 million, what's that fraction? That's about 15%?
16 or 16
Okay.
1/6.
Yeah. So, even though that we've sent those numbers,
Right?
losing 16% of $16 million, well, it's gonna cost more to come back. Once that gets put in a report as overall the beach fared well, I'm
Doesn't
not
sound
so
like it.
sure that that's the right, that we wanna say that.
It could have been
Yeah, we came back and the sun was shining and the beach did what it was supposed to do, but still, that's a lot of money. So maybe we could word that, not to paint a dark picture, but I'm thinking that may be, and I know that's what the mayor said in his blast, that overall the beach did well.
We fared
you know,
well,
right.
but there were losses.
Yeah,
that are
there
being assessed.
there were losses.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't know. I just, because what happens is that, it gets into the public psyche that, okay, well, you did well, and you got a guy in Atlanta reading the paper from,
Yeah.
that's evaluating our project worksheet, and he goes, well, there's
Doesn't
not
sound like
any
we did
need to
that well.
expedite this, they're okay, I'll get around to it, and then we become third tier in the processing of it.
Okay, how about if we take out the line that says overall the beach and inlets fared well? Take that out. Take out, Central Reach again fulfilled this job as a shoreline protection project?
I think that's a fact. I
Okay.
mean, it did, but did incur some damages.
Right, but it held. Vicki, I apologize.
Nope, you need to go
I
now.
have- I let everyone know I have to leave at 11:30, so I apologize.
We gotta do it there,
What's
we
that?
gotta do it there.
I know.
Okay.
I know Christy wanted to take a picture, so do you want to just do that next time, or?
Yeah, we can do it next time.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Okay, would you like me to, after, the results have been sent to ATM for analysis, insert, the Central Reach lost, 201,564 cubic yards? The town has submitted estimated losses to FEMA for Florence and losses for Michael are pending. The beach strand continues to recover daily. I'll take that out. How's that? Does anybody else have anything they want to add about post Florence and Michael? Okay. Storm-related events.
ATM reports are expected,
Okay.
I think Florence was in the next week, and the other one is a couple of weeks. Damage assessment reports.
storm-related events. Manager Hewitt gave an overview of the town's planned responses to storm-related events, such as breaches and washovers. Okay, that didn't really happen.
Town management's gonna provide the emergency response documentation that we have for review.
Could you say that one more time?
Town management's gonna provide the emergency response documentation, Holden Beach emergency response documentation for IBPB review.
Okay. Status of Lockwood Folly Inlet dredging issues. The board discussed the status of the Lockwood Folly Inlet dredging projects. The merit is now scheduled for November. Bids for the inlet pipeline project, 90,000 cubic yards to Oak Island, will close on Tuesday. Okay, we didn't talk about that. Let me take that
He
out.
said, we did say the bid opening was next week, but the cubic yardage was not mentioned.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add?
Good option of revisions.
That's,
Oh,
I bet that's the next one.
Okay.
So just take out the 90,000 cubic yards to Oak Island. Mission statement. The board adopted a mission statement to summarize and guide their work, and then attached the mission statement. Meetings. The members of the board attended the Brunswick Shoreline Protection Consortium and made plans to attend the NC Beach Inlet and Waterway Association and Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway Association meetings. Okay, so what else did we do here? Want to add something about Shoreline?
Yes. We agreed we're going to raise our concerns about the Ocean Isle Terminal groin to the Board of Commissioners. Our concerns about the very tight timeline. And ask if they need any assistance or would like any assistance from the IBPB.
Agreed to raise concerns to the BOC about the tight timeline to see if they need assistance from the IBPB. That make sense? Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to include? Anything else that we covered?
I'll just comment that because you're including that mission statement with the report to the board, the commissioners are going to lay eyes on that. So if there's issue with it, I mean, I'm sure that they'll raise it at that time.
Well, and they give our minutes, so. So, can I have a motion to adopt the memo that we sent to the board?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
Which includes Rhonda, even though she's not here, because she was counted present at the beginning of the meeting. So just
Okay.
as a fine point.
Okay. Okay, public comments.
I have just one quick comment. The gentleman from the Netherlands,
Yeah.
he was recently on 60 Minutes. You can Google that and look at that that segment was very interesting.
The sand engine, yeah. That's-
Okay, Joe?
Number one, I appreciate the board looking into this, the beach and inlet type of topics and providing recommendations, working with the town staff and the board. I appreciate your help. I have a comment on the Central Reach. I agree with David also. And as David was speaking, I just drafted something or wrote something down, but in line with what he was saying. Central Reach, a critical engineered portion of the beach strand, did occur damages. Preliminary assessment as of such and such a date indicate X number of cubic yards of sand. But I do agree with David. Thank you.
Were you referring to like our memo?
Yeah.
Okay, the memo is just going to you, so.
I know, that's why I feel awful.
It is going, it will be out in public, but we will have something, I think that's kind of what we put in.
Thank you.
Okay, any more public comment? With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, so moved.
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned.